building and curriculum implementation as well. So I have to go fast. I got the signed. University ranking and accreditation. We are working on the ranking. The last 2 years, we put some parameters of international standards, and also we work on accreditation to be accredited from international body, either institutional or programmatic. So international relations, I would like to talk about this, but first of all, I would like to introduce our own university. I was talking about the Ministry of Higher Education. It's a public, non-profit university, 18,000 students, 1,400 academic staff, 18 colleges. It's public, comprehensive university. We are concentrating on partnership. We have so many programs with different parts of the world, different universities. I would like to talk about our experience with the German universities. Some of German university play a fantastic roles in our university. I would single out Dortmund University, University of Gießen, University of Erlangen, Nuremberg, and University of Oldenburg. So through this partnership, we started new departments. These departments are very unique within the Iraqi educational system. Through this department, we were concentrating on the economy, society, and environment. These are the parameters for sustainable development and how to balance between these parameters. One of the departments that initiated with the help of the German university, Dortmund University, is spatial planning. In our region, we need such kind of department. We need planners, good planners everywhere, spatial, integrated planners. This is a joint program, joint degree program with Dortmund University. With this, also, this is very unique within Iraqi educational system because we don't have any joint degree within bachelor level with any university. So I'm proud to say that next month we are gonna give a certificate to our graduate from this department. With their certificate is gonna be signed by Dortmund University and our university. And also we have the Department of the Special Education. They graduate, they become teachers for people with special needs. This is with Oldenburg University. With the German, we always appreciate that they help us to prevail the silo system. We are a comprehensive university, classic university. We adopt the idea of the departments that they are standalone department. There is no connection between departments. But with this department that initiated with the help of the German, we started kind of like linked between different departments, and we call them floating departments. With the EU, we have extensive program with the European Union. One of them is the Erasmus Mundus. It is a degree program. We send several hundred of our students for bachelor and master and PhD and academic visit as well. And we are the only university within Iraq that participate in Erasmus Plus, the new initiative of the European Union. This is capacity building program. We succeeded to get with Lund University a program on environment, which it has its indirect effect on sustainable development. It's one of the parameters, and the budget is €1 million. And we got also for the call of 2016, 2 programs with the European Union. One dealing with the refugees, because we have refugees in our area more than the indigenous people. The refugees either from Syria or from other part of Iraq, we call them internally displaced people. The million of each is, the budget of each is €1 million as well. With the US, we have extensive programs, especially with Michigan State University. This is provided to us by the American Embassy in Baghdad, which eventually from the State Department. The budget is $2 million to connect 3 departments from our university with their counterpart, Michigan State University. This is for working on the curriculum, capacity building of staff, of students, and share resources, integration among the students, which is very important. This program has been finished, the lifetime has been finished, but yet it is sustained. And a lot of friendship happened between our staff and the staff at Michigan University. It's joint research. Our research for students, PhD students, are going on, and also a friendship between students. Another program with New York University, this is dealing with refugees. This is going on since 2001. It's not one program, it's actually several programs. Several programs. Every time we submit a proposal to the American Embassy, we get the fund, implement the project, and then after that, submit the final report, and we start a new cycle. And last year, we succeeded to get the Ambassador Fund, which is $1 million for this. And for that, we initiate a Center for Peace and Conflict Resolution. And we actually, within this center, we offer a master's degree, a joint master's degree with New York University. At the beginning, we started with the University for Peace in Costa Rica, which is a UN-mandated university. With the UK, all our program with Britain is through the British Council. And they call for a proposal. Last time they show their initiative to sponsor 32 projects. Our university succeeded to get eight projects, and most of them they has direct impact on the sustainable development. Some of the projects are on citizenship or democratization or how to live in peace and overcome any kind of problems related to faith or ethnicity or beliefs. This is some snapshot from our city. This is the city of The Hague. We have a little dam inside the city. This is the building of the president's office, our university. Usually there is no student here. These are students visiting us from Lund University. They did their capstone project at our city capstone project. They stayed with us for 10 days. This means that the place is safe. They dispersed between the beautiful mountains of Kurdistan. Nobody bothered them, nobody irritated them. And eventually, after their graduation, they came, two of them, they came for their master's degree, research. This is our teachers and students. And again, vet medicine, our program with German, our library, one of the classroom, and our physical education college. Thank you for your attention, and I appreciate any question if you have. Yes. Yes.
I have two questions.
Okay.
The first one is a very basic question.
Okay.
What is the medium of instruction in Kurdistan? I mean, in this university,
Yes.
University of Duhok?
Well, in scientific colleges, it's in English. The textbook is in English, and the teacher speaks English all the time. When it comes to humanities, it's in Kurdish and Arabic, but most of the textbook is in Arabic. They are in Arabic.
In Arabic.
Yeah.
The second question, Kurdistan is not quite, as I understand it, a sovereign or independent state.
No, it's a region.
It is a region.
Yes.
Its funding is from Baghdad?
Yes, yeah. Actually, the Kurdish population makes 17% of the total population of Iraq. So according to our constitution, the Kurdish government gets 17% of Iraqi budget to the Kurdish region. So this is how it works. So 17% of the Iraqi budget, total budget, comes to Kurdistan.
17?
17.
To what extent does the university and apparently more peaceful situation in Kurdistan attract Kurds of outlying countries like Syria, Iran, to come to?
Yeah, actually we usually have a lot of visitors of Kurds from Turkey or Iran or Syria. And we have so many refugees from Syria, all of them Kurds. So, you know, the capability, I mean, to employ them all or to, we don't have such a capacity. But we do have some staff, they are Kurd from Iran and Turkey working with us.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So I was curious about, can you hear me?
No.
Thanks. So a couple of questions. Lund University, I know, has a school, I think they call it human ecology or something like that. Is that the group that you have the connection to?
No, the group, they came from Physical Geography Department, from GIS Center.
Okay.
They do their mapping and
Yes.
survey in our area.
Okay. And then the other question is, I mean, I understand that the emphasis is on this university, the mission has to do with sustainability and sustainable development. What of the traditional disciplines, like, say, geography or English or Arabic or physics, chemistry, sociology, and so on, what are the strengths of Duhok University?
Yeah, we are always proud of our biology department. Biology is a very strong department. And we are always proud of our planning department because we offer a joint degree, actually. However, planning department, our university is a public university, it's a governmental university. Usually we don't charge fees from students. The education is for free. But for this specific department, the planning department, the student need to pay $3,000 a year. This allocation is to sponsor the multiple visit of the German professors back and forth from Dortmund to Duhok, and also to sponsor a compulsory course of our students to go to Germany, to Dortmund. So it is not for the university, it is just to sponsor their visit to Germany and the trips of the German professors. So this is one of our strengths in our university.
To follow up on Professor Omar's question, I personally came to Malaysia back in the 70s as a sociologist of language to help develop Bahasa Malaysia and to some extent replace the colonial language. I don't see much progress since, I'm sorry to say to my Malay friends. And my question is, since you mentioned that so much of tertiary instruction takes place in English, is there a systematic effort in Kurdistan to develop Kurdish to replace what is not, in your case, entirely a colonial language, but is a hegemonic language worldwide?
Yes. Actually, this is the Human Capacity Building Program, the scholarship program. It's very generous. We send a lot of our students to pursue their education to be English teachers. Besides, we always hire foreign native English speakers to come and give courses to people from our university. Some of the courses are for free or very cheap. And we reached out to the community as well. So we offer some English courses. They need to pay a little bit. And the level of instruction is very high. And we provide also, we make sure to have some centers to do the standardized exam like TOEFL and IELTS at our university. We have now TOEFL, but IELTS is not yet.
So basically your answer is the opposite of what I was saying.
Sorry.
Instead of developing Kurdish, you seem to expand the role of English.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a long-term goal. It's not like for 2-3 years, because we need the capacity, human capacity to do so.
Yeah, so is there a systematic effort?
I answered this actually because I believe, I mean, now if we want to reach out the best science or culture, English is a must. So our mission is to raise the standard of English. So this is why I automatically switched to English.
Certainly in science.
In science, yeah. I can't wait to see all the books in medicine, in engineering, in science, chemistry, biology, in Kurdish. This is maybe takes decades.
Unless there is a systematic effort from high levels of government and authority.
Yeah, but with the humanities, we have a lot of books in Kurdish, but textbook mostly in Arabic.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no questions to ask. I have lots of compliments.
Thank you.
And I have also lots of concerns. My compliments are from an autonomous region in 1991, you have come up with tremendous strategic planning covering, I think, the whole gamut of what should be a strategic plan, especially with QA processes, and also extensive scholarship program and networking. I have lots of compliments there.
Thank you so much.
My concerns is about what you may lose for what you have gained. In the concept of Campo Mizan, there is this balance that you must take stock. Kurdistan is Kurdish, the language is Kurdish, Arabic is an integral part of being Kurdish by being in Iraq.
Mm.
English is a language that you have to take on, like what we Malays have to do, being a colony of England before now and mungkin few more years to go.
Yeah.
My compliments come up even further surfaced when I compare to the autonomous region of Aceh in Indonesia. You have come really tremendous way forward. Lots of compliments there.
Thank you.
I want to leave you with these concerns in my heart in the hope that you do not lose the Kurdish part of the people that you have sent out. I was one of those people that was sent out under an extensive scholarship program by Malaysia. They call it SLAB, Scheme Latihan Akademik Bumi Putra, by our former Prime Minister, Tun Abdul Razak, the father of the present Razak. Really. Let's learn from each other. I suppose this is where the Campo Mizan project should come. In Kurdistan Autonomous Region will bear a lot of loss if you do not learn from what we have lost in Malaysia and struggling to find our way forward. Yeah?
Yeah.
So my concern is you go out letting your people out with strong internal jati diri, internal
Pride
not pride, sense of values.
and pride, yeah.
Sense of values that
Yeah.
must not be lost. My fear is, I've seen lots of my friends
Yeah,
in my
Yeah.
generation, they have lost that,
Yeah.
and they became
yeah,
the one that will fight
Yeah.
us. And this is a tragedy.
yeah.
And I hope you will not fall into this tragedy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Actually, when it comes to the people, because the region is stable and safe, and now we receive a lot of Kurdish people that they left the region or left Iraq in 1991 and before due to the violence and, you know, Saddam Hussein and what has done. So now they return back. They return back to the region. So this is something that we are always proud of. Yes.
Can I just ask one question? I'm fortunate enough to be in Kurdistan by Bukobai Group. One of the things that people missed out on Kurdistan perhaps is a kind of peacefulness that is there. When I was invited to your place, the big question is whether we are going into a chaotic place or a very peaceful place. And to my surprise,
Yeah.
it's a very peaceful, harmonious, and kind of place that I can
Yeah.
You will not have that. So maybe it is a difficult question, but we have managed to do it in Kurdistan.
Yeah.
How else can you extend this?
Yeah, actually, the Kurdistan region, it's like one ethnic group and one religion almost. So this is make it, easier to implement peace. Whether the other part of Iraq, they are like mixture of different ethnic groups and different religion. Besides, this is the effort of Kurdish regional government. They work on this very hard. I mean, we have very strong border with other part of Iraq. Nobody can just go into Kurdistan without any investigation. So this is how they kept it safe. And this is what we always suffer, because when we say we invite people that come and we are part of Iraq, they feel not safe, but it's a safe place, totally safe. Anybody, any foreigners, American, European, Malaysian, they can come and walk around anytime without any bodyguarding or any kind of security precaution. Thank you so much. I have the sign 0.
Thank you to Professor Run Hamoudi. Our next presenter, Dr. Evangelos Afandras. He is now the visiting professor in the Indian Institute of Management Kashipur and also education consultant and trainer in Athens, Greece. Dr. Evangelos, formerly a professor of humanities and social sciences at Bukhari International University, Malaysia. He was awarded a postdoctoral research training fellowship, US, Social Science Research Council on Anthropology and Human Geography. Please welcome Dr. Evangelos.
Yes. Let me just. Well, first, let me say that I'm very happy to be here. I'm grateful to both Professor Hood and Zol. With Professor Hood, we crossed paths back in 1975 when I first came to Malaysia to teach at USM in the Pusat Bahasa dan Pustaka. Pusat Bahasa, actually, I was thinking of the Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka in terms of the development of Bahasa Malaysia. Professor Zol was my Deputy Vice Chancellor in the 90s, my second round of teaching at USM. And I very fondly recall how we met face to face. It was actually confrontational, because that's part of being Greek. As I will quote later, Heraclitus, out of contrast comes the sweetest harmony. Because in 2012, when I was in Muscat, better known for Halwa Muscat, at the Sultan Qaboos University, and also independent, he invited me to join him at the University of Antarabangsa Al-Bukhari in Al-Ostan. And so I did. Sound, please. No, the sound of the video. Hmm? Oh, you there? Without sound, this is meaningless. And I cannot reproduce personally the sound because it comes from the bells of goats. intrusion of civilization. Should I replay it louder? Yeah. Association when I heard this, also in the north of Greece, in Macedonia, many years ago, was that it sounded like an Indonesian government. You know, it has that kind of harmony, and it's exactly, precisely, Balinese government. Greeks have a very close connection, and please don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking about. In some cases, I know that on islands of the Aegean, a shepherd who may have 300 or 400 sheep and goats has a personal name for every animal, and calls them by their name and remembers those 300-400 names. If I have 300 students, I'm afraid I don't remember the names. So this is extremely typical, and it's the most gratifying part within nature of the Greek kampong. Okay. I come from the island of Euboea, and very aptly, it's an ancient name, perhaps 3,000 years old, of which the first part, EU, is the same as the first part of my name. EU means good in Greek, and it's a cognate of Sanskrit su, which you have in Indonesian quite frequently as the first part of name, Sukarno, for instance. Okay, so the Greek eu or ev, depending on if it's followed by a consonant or a vowel, means good. And Euboea is the land of good cattle. So already it has this ancient association with agriculture. I'm saying hope because of the situation as I read it in my father's village, and also because of some things that I have tried to do with mostly young people there through accidental happenings. There is the Heraclitus sighting that I associate with Professor Zoll and myself, our connection. I came into this project of mine at the village by meeting a young man who had just finished studies in the sociology of cooperatives at the University of the Aegean in Lesbos. And Lesbos is now very much in the news, not because of the poetry of Sappho, but because it's the main entry point for refugees from the different wars in the Near East and even as far as Afghanistan into the European area. Lesbos is practically sinking from the weight of the refugee issue, not the refugees, but the way that they arrive. We have no adequate facilities. We have no means financially because of the crisis to do better. And the European Union is dragging its feet on providing adequate support. This guy, who is my co-presenter, Nikolaos Stamoulos, as I said, with a recent degree in the sociology of cooperatives, very much, again, part of what we want to see in our countryside, the revival of it, had been working as a, in the storage, you know, in the warehouse of a mall, shelving products. That was the only job he could get, and he was lucky that he could get that. So nothing to do with his qualifications. 8 days ago, he emailed me and he said that he was now working for a Greek NGO, which was working for the refugees and was up in Macedonia in the north, the very same place where I experienced the civil war between the left and the right back in the mid-40s. We have here a shot of the Mediterranean, and my island is right there in the middle, basically the center of the world. Parallel and very close to the Greek mainland. It's connected with 2 bridges and ferry boats. The island, on a bigger scale, the village is up in the north, not quite on the shore, but close to it. And Chalkis, which I would spell the way we also spell Kh in Arabic, K-H. Chalkis is the capital of the island. When I was small, it was about 15,000 people. Now it's reaching 150,000. Industry, educational institutions, and so on and so forth. And my mother comes from there. So practically all my past is from that area. You can see the name Papades, that's the village. It's half an hour's walk downhill because it's at an altitude of 600 meters. So half an hour to go down to the sea, an hour and a half to come back, okay, because it's uphill. As a small kid, I used to do it on donkey back, and I miss donkeys. They are much better than Datsuns. Google Earth photo of the village. Aerial photo. You will notice that the villages are very modern. I was really shocked going in and seeing all the modern facilities of plumbing and everything else. Practically every house is equipped with satellite dishes. And the current, we call them in Greece, president of the community, has brought Wi-Fi. That was mentioned yesterday during our discussions, but I find it very positive for the village. And of course, everybody has a color TV. Winter shot. It snows, and the village gets really covered by snow in the winter. It's directly exposed to the northerly, as we call them in Greece, Siberian winds. The current situation. I must mention at this point that the village, when I used to go there as a small kid in the 50s, during my summer vacation, 3 months running around barefoot, going to the fields, shifting the goats from bush to bush because they eat a lot. They even climb up on trees to eat the leaves. So from 700 people, it has shrunk to about 180. But with a lot of continuous balikampong activity. Okay. In Greece, we have hundreds of billions of national debt. We make a lot of bankers happy by providing them with lovely packages, not through our own will, but forced to. There's 25% general unemployment and 65% youth unemployment. And we are talking, I learned during a conference in Oman that Greece had the highest percentage, along with Korea, of young people who are graduates of universities. So having 65% youth unemployment, that means that a university degree in Greece is meaningless in terms of employment. Hopefully, it's meaningful in terms of education. Often, 3 generations live together off the grandfather's pension, so that the grandparents have their pension, usually an agricultural pension. I was told to go and get an agricultural pension, but I'm not entitled. I said, I'm a professor, it doesn't matter, go to the... That's the easiest. And the parents may be unemployed or have seen their salaries cut drastically. And of course, the young people are unemployed. So 3 generations living off an old man or woman's pension. Public health care has been slashed drastically. We have, I read once, 30,000 Greek doctors who are working in Germany alone. There are now Greek doctors in Saudi Arabia. I'll mention also about the Greek community in Malaysia. When I was here in 1975, I was the only Greek in the country. And a couple of months after I arrived, there was a piece of news, I think in the Utusan, Malaysia, about this young Malay girl who was the first one to come back to Malaysia with a PhD in engineering. Her family name was Greek. So while she was a student, she married a Greek in the US. Okay, I repeated that later. Now, our history for the last 200 some years is a history of continuous conflict. I mentioned here, I list all the wars. We had several wars of independence and liberation because up to 1821, we were part of the Ottoman Empire. At first, a small area of Greece was liberated through the Independence War. And then we had 3 or 4 successive wars to liberate more Greek territory. We took part in the 2 world wars. And after the Second World War, because Stalin and who was the American representative in the Yalta, Roosevelt, and Churchill, decided that Greece should be within the Western sphere of influence. I'm not going to express my opinion on that. I have seen his personal notes. And therefore, Greece had to be within the Western sphere of influence, irrespective of the fact that the people who fought the Germans were broad coalition of the left. So the Brits and then the Americans came in and fought on the weak side of the Greek forces, and we had a civil war from 1944 until 1949. I have terrible memories because my father was in the Greek Royal Police, and he was commander in territory which was dominated by the guerrillas, and I have seen death and violence when I was 2 or 3 years old, and I understand very much the Middle Eastern people who come to Greece as refugees now. As part of telling you how history has shaped our concepts, it occurred to me a couple of days ago. We share the word that comes from Arabic, in Malay, rakyat, okay, which means citizenry, right? Well, in Greek, because of our Ottoman Empire past, Rayas means slave. So the word that to you means citizen, to us means slave. Okay, and this is, I think, very significant. I'm getting goose pimples. Another thing that is very typical of Greek culture and is behind the concept of disharmony, but Heraclitus dealt with it 2,000-3,000 years ago, is that every Greek believes that he's a leader, or should be. And the Italians very aptly say about us, cinque Greci, 10 caporali. 5 Greeks, 10 corporals, okay? 10 officers or under officers, basically. All through growing up and living in Greece and going to the village, and even since my repatriation in 2014 from Allostar to Athens, we are people who talk abundantly. I mean, in addition to being corporals, we are storytellers. And through all these stories, I have had massive input about the past and about the present. Here's one case with my first cousin, who unfortunately passed away last year, visiting him because he was housebound. You can see the fireplace keeping warm. And I would sit there for 3 hours listening. Okay. Now you see why it's so difficult to have a 20-minute presentation on bigger issues. Here's another case in the village coffee shop. Another guy, is telling me something also, another narrative. And that happens all the time. I mean, you take a bus, you take the train, you hear stories no end. Another one, I didn't recognize him, but apparently I'm the godfather, not in the mafia style, okay, of this guy. So again, sat down and heard about his current life. The coffee shop is the cultural center of the Greek kampong. And not just for coffee, but that's where you talk, you argue, you get in Greek tichabaria, which is apakabar in Malay, from khabar in Arabic. And in some villages, I experienced, but not in my village, there is a coffee shop representing each political party. So you have the rightist coffee shop, you have the socialist coffee shop, and you have the communist coffee shop. And if they are all on the same square of the village, they sit across with a plane tree in the middle and start screaming at each other, okay? That's part of Greek harmony.
Do they scream in different keys?
No, but they have different vocabulary because it's the ideological vocabulary of the party. Okay?
Do they drink the same coffee or different coffee?
It's Greek coffee or Turkish coffee or Arabic coffee, depending where you you come from.
The question is,
Yeah, I think
how
the
much ouzo do they have with the coffee?
I think the leftists drink bitter coffee and the right is sweet. They can afford more sugar. So here is another coffee shop where they are playing cards.
Is it palm sugar?
I'll introduce it. Okay. The pool of the village. As you mentioned, how important is the concept of balik kampung in Malaysia. In Greece, it's much more pronounced and frequent. Why? Because every day in Greek religion, Greek Orthodox, there is a celebration of a saint. Okay. And many of them are important. For instance, the Greek names, Yannis, Nikos, Yorgos, and so on. Yannis, the famous musician. And on that day, everybody with that first name celebrates. And also in the village, there is one church, the main church, and about 10 or 12 chapels throughout the fields, in the forest, sometimes, 2 hours walk away from the village. They celebrate once a year, okay? When they do, everybody comes back to the village. So instead of those 180 inhabitants, you may have 500, 600 present for the celebration. Now here is one very close to my grandfather's vineyards. He had several and produced about 1,000 liters of wine for the family every year. Because for us, wine is not haram, and it's essential to our daily life. And there used to be no excess. This came in later through, I would say, westernization. Okay. Here is the communal cooking. And you'll be happy to see that it's very much good food. Beans. So you have bean soup with tomatoes, carrots, celery. The only, I would say, adverse byproduct is, of course, natural gas. They must learn how to capture it and store it for future festivities. Here I'm with my first cousin. His father was the village priest, okay? And now the hope part. 2 minutes. Through the efforts and introductions of my co-presenter, who is not here, he's with refugees in Greece, Syrian mostly, we set up a group, and we had a number of workshops in which we discussed what to do for the future of the village. So here is a part of those present. The one in red is also Afendras. And very aptly, I didn't even know the existence of his family, even though the house was behind my grandfather's house. I suspect it's because my family was rightist and his was leftist. So they didn't exist, okay? Here, arguing about points of our workshop. What I want to do, again, going back, because we did it very superficially, is a strategic analysis of the village, its potential, its products, and where we go. And here is the brainstorming. In Greek, it's called, they have put the terms, idea rain. So it sort of translates indirectly brainstorming, yeah? And they are talking about products, zaitun, right? Olives, honey is really superb there, cheese, resinated wine, and resin from the pine trees, a very important product, and generally chickens and sheep and so on. Thank you very much. And I apologize for the intrusion on the time allocation.
Quick question. I enjoyed that presentation over here.
Come and enjoy the products of the village.
Okay. Yeah, actually, it all sounds appetizing, in fact. But I was thinking about this idea of the name sharing with saints. And what I was going to ask you is, are children named for the saint day that they're born on?
That was my case.
Okay, is that common? Because that would then explain why they celebrate the Saints' Day the same day as their name day. Yeah? If they were born on that day, they're celebrating the birthday and the Saints' Day at the same time.
When I was a kid, birthday was an unknown concept in Greece.
Ah, okay.
So you always celebrate your name day.
Okay, because in Brazil they do that also. My wife's family, all the children are named for the saints' day they were born on, and this is Catholic and Roman Catholic, similar to the Greek Orthodox. Yeah. So just about every day has a saint's name, practically.
Exactly. No.
So
not only one, sometimes 2 or 3.
That's right.
But most of them are minor, so we don't really celebrate them.
But people get named for them, and so then when that birthday comes around, it happens to be a saint day, so they're. Yeah. But that makes sense also that the birthday is a Western idea, because not everybody had a calendar before anyway.
Right.
The calendar they'd follow was the liturgical one, not the
The-
Julian.
Yeah. I need to also mention, as a reply to the comment, we have very complex rules for naming children in Greece. I know in Malaysia, usually you make up a name that catches different elements of euphony and so on. In Greece, the most important rule is if you are born during an important religious holiday, then that is the most powerful criterion. You get a name of that holiday. If it's not, then you take the name of one of your grandparents depending on gender. If my mother was Margarita, my daughter is Margarita Laila. Okay. Margarita. Okay. Unfortunately, when she was in the UK studying, they called her Madge, which is an amputation of the name. My first son is Noor Angelos, from his two grandfathers. Okay. So we did the two grandfathers, the two grandmothers, then we ran out of grandparents. So the third one is Amir Alexandros, and that was my choice. Yeah.
Fendras, you also want to mention that your name is also Effendi in Malaysia. So, but my question is different. My question is, I want you to elaborate a little bit on this idea of a discord getting into the sweetest experience. Because I think as we move into this Kampung Mizan, I'll see a lot more confrontation. And in Malaysia, confrontation stays as it is. We become sworn enemies at the end of the day. So how do you go back to the sweetest part? So at the end of the day, we can benefit from this kind of a collaboration, getting the ideas through. What is the Greek take on this?
It's a philosophical concept, and I presume one can find backing for it even in everyday life. I mean, people constantly argue, state their opposite positions. To the extent of their mental prowess, they discuss them and hopefully find common ground. So in that sense, you get the sweetest harmony, but I think also a very important part is celebration. And because we have very frequent celebrations, then we have occasions to sit down. To come back now to onomastics, excuse me, my family name, and Prof. Hood asked me to make some comments a few days back on the role of women. I had a lot of thoughts and notes, but I didn't have time to incorporate them into my presentation. My family name is matriarchal because Afendra is the feminine of Afendi. Okay. And the term Afendi in ancient Greek, Afendis, is Greek by birth and development. And then from Greek went over into Arabic, Turkish, and even Indonesian. When I was a senior fellow in Hawaii in the 70s, the senior fellow before me was a painter by the name of Afandi from Indonesia. Okay? And obviously, some of my ancestors at the village were of a matriarchal family. So it became not the children of George or whatever, but the children of Afendra, the lady. And Afendra is also the equivalent of Malay city, Arabic Saida, the lady, with capital L, okay? I also would like to make a comment about the village in the sense that I was puzzled as a child to notice that some of the men of the village were referred to by connection to the wife's name. First name. The case I remember is O Christos tis Haidos, Kres of Haidot. Why? Because the wife was a more prominent member of the community. So the husband was subjugated, basically, in reference, by connecting with the wife.
Okay. I just want to add to the complexities of Greek history, full of continuous conflict and wars, and personal experiences in looking into death. You could have been a Hoja, yeah, under Ottoman Empire, because Effendi, you have Sayyida, you have Sayyid.
Yeah.
Yeah? Coming out from that, of the Ottoman encapsulation, if you like, you are now encapsulated within the tens of thousands of debt that your country is facing.
Hundreds of billions.
Sorry, 100s of billions of national debt, with 25% general unemployment, 65% youth unemployment, 3 generations living together, and you have leftists and rightists being demarcated along political
ideologies.
It is really a sad thing to try and find peace, harmony, and balance. But I can see there is a light at the end of all these complexities and human tragedy, if you like. That is, you found the sweetest part in your family extended system, which I believe is your strength within all this. And therefore the Kampung Mizan concept of Balik Kampung, which is even more than the Malays now, is your strength of having to come out again and free yourself from this yoke of entrapment of capitalism.
Yeah.
I would like to add that you may like to share with us, amidst a very close-knit Greek family setup with the melodious songs played by the goats that just be known by names. MashaAllah, that's really very humanistic.
So the family extends to the flock of goats.
Yes, yes. So how do you come to pass that you became leftists and rightists and get disconnected with all this? We need to explain this, to understand how to go back, to find peace, harmony, and balance. Thank you. The Greek way.
I think that at least part of the answer is in the 0 minutes. It's a round number. Still 0 minutes. I think that the most important part here is rational treatment of our problems, because political ideologies and belonging in parties, unfortunately, it's a little bit also like religion. Religion has great principles, but the daily lives of the practitioners often leave a lot to be desired. And I think that being able to sit down and rationally, face-to-face exchange and discuss and arrive at communal and collective decisions is the hope for the future. Yeah. Thank you very much. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you, Dr. Evangelos Afandras. The next presenter is Professor Dr. Nazar Newman. He is a Dean of Special Planning and Applied Science, University of Duhok, Kurdistan Region, Iraq. With his 42 years of experience in higher education, he believes a higher education is the strongest tool for the development of humanity. He has been very much multidisciplinary, and his approach, which this can open new arenas in the development of science application. He obtained his PhD from the University of Sheffield, England, in structural geology in 1974. Now, I'm honored to invite Professor Dr. Nazar Newman to present his paper entitled Kurdistan, A View to Sustainable Development.
Thank you very much. In the beginning, I would like to express my pleasure and gratitude for the opportunity of being here in Malaysia. This is my first time in Malaysia. It is indeed a beautiful country. We know a lot of colleagues from Malaysia in Iraq, and also we have had a large number of students who did their postgraduate studies in Malaysia. I could say almost all of them are really very, very capable and efficient, and having had a very good education. It is indeed a choice for our postgraduate students to either go to Britain or the United States, or the second choice is Malaysia. I'm thankful for the organizing committee, and in particular, I'm thankful to Professor Zul Abdurazak and Professor Hood Saleh, also the young people, ladies and gentlemen, who are being very, very hard at work in organization of this conference. Well, I would like to give a perspective on the Kurdistan region of Iraq and a history of what happened, and also a very radical decommunization of the region with the erasal and with the demolishing of over 4,000 villages in the region because of political strife and military strife in the region. Well, the Kurdish people are ethnic group of its own. They have their own language, and there are about between 30 and 35 million Kurdish people in the world, mostly spread over a region or an area called Kurdistan. Kurdistan is divided by the borders, international borders of 4 countries: Iraq, Turkey, Iran, and Syria. And actually, these borders were quite artificial. They were drawn up by a couple of people, one English called Sykes and the French Picot. They were both administrators in the lands of the previous lands of the Ottoman Empire, and they divided these areas into the countries of Iraq, Syria, and also Turkey and Iran. Actually, these borders, they were the seed for very great and grave future troubles, because they were drawn across ethnic and religious lines, and it has really created so much of political instability and struggles and suppression and so on. So I think that has been going on for decades, and there doesn't seem to be a light at the end of the tunnel at this stage, because people are so much polarized with their religious sects and ethnicities, considering, in fact, the fact that the oldest civil war in human history for 1400 years between Shiites and Sunni Islam. And Iraq is embroiled in all that, plus, of course, the Kurdish problem and many other minorities in Iraq, namely Christians, Assyrians, Chaldeans, and also Mandayans, Sabian Mandayans, and Yazidis. Yazidis are also Kurdish people. They speak exactly the same language of Kurdish, but their religion is an ancient religion. The Zoroastrian actually is the original religion of the Kurdish people. Anyway, the Kurdistan region in Iraq has 5 million people. As I say, 35 million in the world. The largest community is in Turkey. And it is said to be the largest ethnic group in the world without a country of their own. But in Iraq, it has had a very long process of struggle. between the Kurds and the Iraqi government. Not with, we don't say with the Arabs, because with the Arabs there is quite a lot of fraternity between Kurds and Arab, simply because they are of the same religion. But politically, with the central government of Baghdad, there has been quite a lot of problem. There was an uprising that started in 1960, and that uprising went on and off intermittently, and it was a prolonged and protracted period of struggle. It culminated in the 1980s when there was the Iran-Iraq war, and Kurdish people were taken by Saddam Hussein to be siding with the Iranians. So that instigated Saddam Hussein to put the full might of the Iraqi army against the Kurds. He used chemical weapons, erased 4,000 villages of the surface of the map, and killed in the process 182,000 Kurds. There were many people who were uprooted and put in sort of concentration camps in the southern part of Iraq, in the desert, and there have been hundreds of mass graves that were discovered after the fall of Saddam Hussein. And after that, there was the Kurdish, the new Iraqi constitution, which was signed on by the Iraqi people in general. And in that constitution, the rights of the Kurdish people are enshrined in the constitution. There is peace after this time of what I call liberation of Iraq from Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was a very, very brutal dictator, although I understand many people in other countries in the region think he was a hero or something, but he was not. He started the Iran-Iraq war, which killed 2 million people over 8 years period. So I'll go over the repercussions of the what I call the decomposition of the region, and also what happened. There are a lot of accounts on the brutality that happened in the region after 1991, because the first Gulf War, the Kurdish people fearing for a reprisal against their uprising in 1991, after the Iraqi army was totally defeated in Kuwait. There was an uprising, and then the Saddam Hussein turned his army and war machine against the Kurdish people. About 3.5 to 4 million people fled their Kurdistan by walking into the mountains, into Turkey and Iran. And it was then when the operation Provide Comfort by the Allies was put in place. There was a no-fly zone after that above the 36th parallel, and the Kurdish enclave became a sort of independent de facto government on its own. That situation continued until 2003. After the reinstatement of those refugees from Iran and Iraq, they came back. There was safety now, no fly zones, and they were ruling themselves, but they were faced with a huge problem of how to deal with these people who have been completely uprooted. So I will just go through the background again. It's in 1980s, 4,000 villages were destroyed. Namely, the crescendo of that was in 1988, when the Anfal campaign was carried out using chemical weapons, especially in the city of Halabja, where 4,000 or 5,000 people were killed in a matter of 10 minutes with chemical weapons. And the total people killed was 132,000 Kurds. The surviving villagers after 1991 moved as a result in a mass migration to the cities of Kurdistan. The socio-economic fabric of the Kurdish society were seriously disrupted, and the agriculture was completely curtailed. So really this was created a lot of difficulties and problems for how to manage this. There were a lot of humanitarian organizations, a large number of them, United Nations, UN Habitat, and so many organizations that were trying to help the refugees and the people who came in, but they gradually settled in those areas. So I'll just show you the map context of the region. The Iraq is there in the middle, the dark yellow with the red on the north. That's Iraq in the Middle East region, and you see Turkey, Iran, Syria, and so on. The lighter colored red is actually the Greater Kurdistan. It is the Kurdistan where it is being divided by the 4 countries in the region. And you can see a patch of that light red in Iran, in the north of Iran, just to the east of the Caspian Sea. And that was actually some Kurdish tribes moved by some Iranian Shah long time ago, some centuries ago. He put them there because they are very, very fierce fighters, and so that they could defend Iran from incursions from north of the border. So the region of Kurdistan is here in north and northeastern Iraq, and the yellow part is what is officially under the control of the Kurdistan Regional Government, KRG, and the green area are what we call the disputed areas between the government of Iraq and the Kurdistan region. There are areas that have a majority of Kurdish people, but they are still under the control of the Baghdad government, and that is an area of contention and a lot of friction between the KRG and the central government of Baghdad. This is a typical Kurdish village in the mountains. And as you can imagine, the culture of the people there is typically agricultural and in the mountainous people. This is a sort of a small town built at the side of the mountain called Aqra. And also over the millennia, let me show you this map. This is just a piece of a map for the Kurdistan region done after 1991. And the map shows the names of the villages, and you can see under the name of each village, almost each village, you can see the word destroyed. It's no longer is there. So destroyed, destroyed, destroyed all over the place. In places it is also partially, some of them are partially displaced. Irrespective whether destroyed or partially destroyed, there are no people living there. And this is another part of a map also in the region. The Kurdish people, as I said, they have this agricultural culture, and for over the millennia they have tilled the soil, their fertile soil, and actually Iraq was the breadbasket for the whole, Kurdistan region was the breadbasket for the whole of Iraq until 1970s, 60s, 70s. So this is a kind of scene you would see in village, people working in the fields. Usually women work in the fields and men do other things like building or maybe fighting and so on. This is also shows you the culture with the cattle and with the culture. The Kurdish dress is specific to them. It's a long baggy trousers and turban with something in the middle of the belly. And they are, as I said, they've been known to be some very, very fierce fighters. And the women also wear very, very colorful dresses. As you may expect in mountainous regions, usually they like a lot of color. So after the erasure of the villagers from the villages, this Kurdish society became basically unproductive one. and a shadow economy developed and thrived solely on oil revenues. That was the beginning of building. One of our colleagues yesterday was mentioning about the bad planning at the beginning of independence of Malaysia. Well, this is again another example of bad planning that happened, and I'll show you. So they were depending on oil revenues. The new internally displaced people in the cities caused a sudden increase in demand for housing, and together with resulting poverty led to the construction of informal settlements. So there was a large number of informal settlements put in the cities. Despite the efforts by the international organization, they were not enough, so there were a lot of informal settlements. The REACH initiative of the International Organization for Migration mapped these settlements in 2014. The map shows 880 such settlements which house 15,624 households and have a total of 88,894 individuals still living in these irregular settlements. Overcrowding cities necessitated expanding the basic infrastructure for clean water, electricity, transportation, as well as in new schools and hospitals in the Kurdish cities. So this is the map by the REACH of international. The blue circle shows the concentration of informal settlements. The larger blue circle is where there is between 1,500 and 2,000 settlements, and the smaller circle is less than 1,500, and the very small ones just under 100 settlements in the region. So oil revenues covered for the imports of food, services, and infrastructure, and the quality of life improved in general. After 2003, the national income, according to KRG figures, increased by nearly 47%. And the GDP growth rates were very high at nearly 69%. The very high figures of GDP growth encouraged massive masked employment with very little productivity, as shown in reference number 3. So there was a lot of money coming from the oil. People would not have agriculture, so the only way was for the government to solve the issue is to employ. And in Kurdistan, which has a 5 million population, about over 1 million people are on regular government salaries, which is really a disaster. When you will see what happened then. The economic bubble persisted for as long as the price of oil was high in the international market. Plummeting of oil prices in 2015 has exposed the deficiencies of the revenue-based shadow economy. Reversal of economic growth highlighted the urgent demand for planning for a rational productive economy and self-sufficiency in the context of an overarching sustainable development. So what is needed for sustainability? The plan should be objective and pragmatic, and hard facts on the ground, both in the cities and the rural areas, cannot be overlooked. Sometimes planners come and put up plan without actually understanding or maybe ignoring the hard facts on the ground, and the result is completely opposite, reversed. Actually, I would like just to cite an example, a previous example that I was somehow involved in the 1970s. There was a program in the desert, in the western desert of Iraq. The Iraqi government at the time wanted to settle the Bedouins in the desert and make settlements there for them. So they were searching for water in the western desert, and I was involved with one of the companies that was looking for groundwater. We did find water. It's about 300, 400 meters deep, but we found water, and they built some settlements in the desert and brought those Bedouins, forcibly put them in these houses, which were sort of modern houses with a small garden and and rooms inside the house. And when they came back after a few months, they found that the Bedouins had put up their tent in the garden and living in the garden, where they put the camels and the sheep in the rooms. So, you know, this is when you don't take into consideration the reality on the ground and the psychology of the people and so on. Actually, with respect to the Sustainable Development Plan, I think the best solution is to adopt the Action Agenda 21 of the Rio de Janeiro Summit of 1992, the subsequent Johannesburg Declaration on Sustainable Development in 2002, and the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development in the Rio de Janeiro in 2012. And actually, the plan should be, as we say, integrated and take all aspects of life into consideration. I happen to be on the steering committee of strategic planning for Duhok Governorate, which is one of the 3 governorates of Kurdistan region, in collaboration with the UNDP program. And actually what we did was, first of all, meet with a lot of people, different sectors of society, and take their input before we could plan. And then we made a SWOT analysis and went from there on. So raising awareness and education among the migrants, provision of material support and infrastructure for gradual reinstatement of rural areas. And this is another problem, actually. You see, when you have a problem on this, of this magnitude, you have hundreds of thousands of people who have been put wrongly in the city, and now you want to put them back in the village. The problems are immense, because you need, first of all, to make life in the village at least comparable to their life now in the cities. Number one. Number two, they have to be educated and they have to be prepared in the right way so that they accept to go back to villages. Additionally, it is not possible, it's not feasible that you do reinstatement of all the villages at the same time. You need an immense amount of infrastructure, you need a lot of allocations which are scarce now, so it has to be a transitional plan. And it has to, this plan has to be in concert with the stages of reconstruction and provision of infrastructure. Rural migrants in Kurdistan region of Iraq have spent nearly a quarter of a century in urban areas. Those people who have come in the cities, they have been, they've spent, and so it's difficult to, they've got acclimatized, especially their second generation, who don't know a life in the rural areas, in spite of the economic disadvantage that rural migrants usually live in. They find that city life provides them with easy access to services such as education, health, and more vibrant social life. So the major challenge is to provide them with this, otherwise they just would not want it. So reinvigorating agricultural production and reviving the villages to get people into production mode and be self-reliant again in the obvious plan of choice. Involvement in the planning process of the rural migrants who have spent nearly a quarter of a century in urban areas in the context of participatory planning. Putting a robust plan for rural economy that depends not only on agriculture, but also on tourism industry, energy, natural resources exploitation, services and industries related to agriculture and natural resources. We have to provide this in a sort of base, economic base in the rural area for them to be able to revive. It's an area which is rich with good tourist capabilities, and also it has natural resources including some oil and gas. The plan should balance the 3 pillars of sustainable development: environment, economy, and society. We have been hearing in the last 2 days about the Mizan. Mizan, I mean, it could not be just said Mizan in an abstract term, but we have to be specific. Where does the Mizan, between what and what? So the 3 basic pillars of the sustainable development is the environment, the economy, and the society. These 3 basic pillars have to be taken into consideration as a basic tenet of sustainable development. A transitional plan could start with pilot projects of urban agriculture with a major role for women. It could also involve working in rural projects while continuing to live in the cities. This is another way of tackling it. First of all, make some rural projects of agriculture or whatever, poultry production, and then make the people go and back and forth from city there, because the distances are not very large. You know, with 20, 30 kilometers, you get anywhere there in Kurdistan. Partnership is required between public and private sectors in joint ventures in rural areas and in monitoring role of government. NGOs could define the balancing act of this partnership. Higher education is required to emphasize sustainable development in its progress and research to produce graduates with pertinent skills, and development of human resources in Kurdistan in general, and in the villages in particular, is crucial for overall economic development. The needed modern skills in renewed villages are in areas of agriculture, tourism, natural resources and services, and gender equity is essential to ensure sustainability of the progress. And of course, you have to implement modern agriculture by taking these parameters into consideration. That is land management, soil preservation, utilizing pesticides, weed eradication, expanding livestock, forestry, rangeland management, water resources management, mechanization of agriculture, and provision of rural areas of educational and health services that are comparable to those provided in areas. Employment of modern technology in agriculture and other sectors of economy. Implement a dedicated infrastructure for regional water resources management. Benefits, reversion to agriculture would be the natural path to sustainable development. Village renewal project is a means of consolidation of local culture and values. Implementation of regional rural development will serve as a strong tool for economic development for improving lives of deprived city dwellers. And with village renewal as part of an overarching sustainable development plan in the Kurdistan region, we will have started our journey to forever. These are some references, and thank you very much.
One question only.
Thank you very much for that very enlightening presentation. I just want to make one footnote. When you talk about sustainability, it's of course environment, economy, and society. But increasingly, I think the society part now has been broken into two, so that we are more focused. So society now is translated as culture and people.
Yes.
Because society can be very vague.
Yes.
What we also want to see the balance between culture and people, as much as we've been talking about in the last 2 days.
Sure. Sure. You know, Professor, also environment can be subdivided into several aspects of environment, such as pollution, landscaping, and there are so many aspects of environment. You know, in the broad term, we mention society, environment, and economy, but each one of those parameters has got a lot of details in them. One of the most important things, I think, with respect to economy, for instance, is the public-private partnership and the transformation from basically what we inherited as a socialist economy into market economy. This is really very essential. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry for being talkative today. I just want to follow up on the footnote of Town 3. I'm going to follow up with a big footnote. The footnote was society, society being divided into, if you like, or you have the culture and people equilibrium.
Yeah.
What do you do with the development of man? because the whole model that I take from what you have presented is basically an economic model that drives people forward to become the productivity man, to become the economic man.
Yeah.
But without that big footnote of people-centered society, you will again lose that man and manliness that would be the definition of Kurds.
Yes.
So what do you do with the development of man?
Yes, thank you for that question. I think insofar as the culture is concerned, the Kurdish people are very, very culture conscious, you know, simply for the simple fact because for over the decades they have felt suppressed, they have felt their identity has been obliterated. In Turkey, for instance, until maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, it was not possible to have a television station in Kurdish, not possible to have a radio station in Kurdish, and people were prevented or it was forbidden to speak in Kurdish in public. Indeed, yeah. But you see, so the Kurdish people are very, very aware of their history and of their identity. Sometimes we feel maybe it is overdone because, you know, the status quo, which we cannot change now, you have countries, you have international borders, and so on. And although they have been very, very disruptive and very, very negative in the history of the region, as it is in many other parts of the world, even in Europe. So there is no hope to solve a problem or to come to a sort of balance in this area unless the only hope, I believe, is more education towards secular humanism. You know, I mean, there is too much polarization, and that's very dangerous. There is identity politics playing. I mean, I'm not with actually disregarding the identity or disregarding the culture, which is very essential. But let us enjoy it in the positive way, not in a destructive way. And this is being the problem actually in Middle Eastern country. Otherwise, we have a lot of NGOs, a lot of political parties that take care of that. We have Kurdish research centers in each and every university that tackles the issue of culture and culture of Kurdish people. So it is going on. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nazar Newman. Our next presenter is Mr. Nasian Sino Pachialyoga. He is newly elected Vice Mayor of Numingak, Philippines, and the recipient of 2012 World Award, which is the prestigious international competitions for organic best practices, including ecology, economy, and social aspects. However, he is not here today, and his paper will be read by Dr. Zulkifli Baharum. It gives me a great pleasure to invite Dr. Zulkifli Baharum to deliver his paper entitled Poverty Eradications, Organic Farming, Governance, and Evolution of Social Change, the Experience of Numingak Municipality. Please welcome Dr. Zulkifli Baharum.
Thank you very much. I've been cautioned by the organizer. We are now eating up our tea break. So I'm just going to do justice to my friend, Mayor Jun Pakolenga, for the paper that he has presented. I've been entrusted to just go through the papers very quickly. It is not a paper. This is really the result, success model of one very prominent municipality in the Philippines. So I will go through very quickly. question will be entertained during tea break and lunch if you want. So the presentation entitled Domingang Organic Culture, Eradicating Poverty and Hunger Through Organic Agriculture. So this is not an academic paper, it is more very practitioners oriented based on real results. Mayor June was elected and the position as mayor in 2007. He served the maximum of his eligibility for 3 consecutive terms, which lasted for 9 years. So upon that, he stepped down from the position of mayor in May 2016. He was asked by the candidate now for the president of the Philippines to run for a governor position. However, he consulted with his people. They still want him to be around. So as such, he decided to become just vice mayor, making way for his son to be the mayor. This is something which I just need to explain to you. It is a second-class municipality in view of the number of population. It got about 800,000. So as such, it falls within the, anything that more than 1 million will be in the first-class municipality. So under this municipality, there's 44 barangays, which means 44 kampungs, 33 of which is upland, and 11 lowland, located in the center of Zamboanga Peninsula, which is an island just below Mindanao. The place has no mining, no logging activities. It does not allow that. No marine resources. So it is totally agricultural municipality and vast undeveloped land. The situation when he took over in 2007, 90% population are poor, very slow economic activity, low income, poor health services, low literacy. So he promised within his tenure, he will try to eradicate and reduce the poverty level. So 3 basic questions been asked. How to liberate the people from poverty, sickness, and hunger. Number 2, how to bring the municipality to a higher level of development. And 3, how to provide brighter future for the people. So it is meant, this was the question that I asked to the presenter during the opening night. Can change take place without political will? So in this aspect, it is due to political will and political push. So the tagline of Mayor June was, liberate our people from poverty, sickness, and hunger. So he has developed a genuine people's agenda. So that is Mayor June. Political leaders assume full responsibilities of the program, and leaders are or should be in the front line. Not merely developing plan, giving rhetoric speeches time after time, but you must be part of the people and get things moving in reality. So he has got to be a collective leadership. That is why when he was offered to be a governor for Zamboanga, due to the Musyawarah Ukua. He consulted with his people, and they said they want him. Of course, he gave a term. You want me? So put my son as the mayor. But they said, why? Because anybody else who get to the mayor, I got to be subservient to that person, and all my plan can go haywire. Okay, this is the local economy of his municipality. So how to ensure food sufficiency program, planting the permanent crop for sustainable upliftment through sustainable organic agriculture, through people empowerment, and through household approach. So this is just the normal theoretical way of doing it. I want to show you the result. So this is among the community gathering. The guy in a white t-shirt, that is Mayor Jun. He got to wear attire that resembling to the people. The leaders, servant leadership. Leaders eat, live, eat, work, and learn with the people. No special VIP table for him. He will eat together with them. So this is the activities that has been carried out aggressively, strengthening internal organization capacity, employing intensive people education. So he believes it is not through university education alone, but vocational and skill development education. So this is a transformative education model, transforming local education system into a genuine educational system that is approachable to the real condition and responsive to the needs of the people. By transforming the heart and minds of the people into a progressive and advanced culture anchored to sustainable organic agriculture. So this is the monthly activities of the Ketua Kampungs, where there they call it Barangay Captain, Barangay Captain. This is the establishment of diversified and integrated organic farm. They intensified the campaign for organic farming, creating an organic culture in that community of 800,000 people. They intensified social enterprise. It is a full employment. Young people do not run to Manila or to Davao because they can find quality of life and they can find employment. And they can reach out to their leaders every day. So this is the cottage industry, and most of the product have been imported to Manila, Davao, and other cities in the Philippines. So they believe to strengthen the people participation in ancestral domain areas. So they work in a commune way. It is not a communist state, but they practice community development, getting involvement of everybody in their activity. So anybody who stay at home doing nothing, they become shy. They have not been forced to join, but when they see activities that way, they also sign up and join. They build the engineer school, the school that relate to the activity of the community. Now, this is what I want to share with you. Mayor Jun established a standalone Institute of Sustainable Organic Agriculture, DSOA, you know, at his constituency. Yeah, I saw 5 minutes. I'll make it 3 minutes. And then he also created a Domingang Technological Training School. So everybody has got the opportunity. Because the academic part is there, but those who have been displaced due to poverty, so he created courses that can help them to do work. This is the integrative medicine. Yesterday we'll talk about the need to have a proper massage, traditional massage, and they are doing it. I enjoy it. I was there, and then, I enjoy this, this benefit. Okay, this is what I want to stress to you. Along with social economic reform, Mayor Jun, to his Domingang municipality, has strongly implemented the political stand, and it has already been happening. No to illegal drugs, no to smoking in all public places, no to commercial video karaoke, no to large-scale mining, no to genetically modified organism, no to agriculture chemical farming, no to telephonies as second packaging, no to gambling, both legal and illegal, like cockfighting, small town lottery, all this has been eradicated. And the people support it, even the illegal one, Masjo, the street tree, and then, you know, all kind of illegal gambling. You know. So this is the only place in the Philippines that really created a situation which is very Islamic. Because they believe in genuine people's agenda. So the Domingang culture is an organic culture. Yeah. Simple organic living gives high regard to farming profession, hardworking, peace-loving, respect the rules of law and order, express the farmer's way of life through art, song, and dances. So this is just evidence of it. The positive result, there has been an increased number of organic farming practitioners compared to the time that he took over. When he started, only 20 farmers. Now it is more than 500. So organic seed has been shared with the people there. They have a better marketing system organized by the municipality. Establishment of vermicomposting facilities, application of organic appropriate technologies, rice duck farming system, inland fisheries were developed. When he was started, when he took over the helms of Domingang, is only less than 5 ponds, but now they have more than 300 household level, and it is increasing. Native chicken is most household raised organically. Every household has got some kind of activities, chicken or organic farming. Now 350 hectares of cassava in 2007, now more than 2,000 hectares planted yearly. From 5 hectares of abaca in 2007, now they are around 500 hectares. Yeah, okay. Here you really pressured me. You give me the last, and I got only, I got to do justice to Major Jun. Okay, this is more evident of what the result has, has been created, all through. So this is through political accomplishment, the local income level has increased from 2006, and when you see 2005, 2015 and 2016, so he has increased tremendously. That also registered business establishment, so he helped to ensure that it should be hitting 1,000 business establishment among the people, SME, generated business activities by 2017. Okay, so there is more evidence to that. I can share with you this PowerPoint if you like. You know. So this, if I got time, I can explain to you what is meant by this household progress. So the whole idea is talking about pushing the well-being for the people at the municipality of Dominguez. It is a success model which President Duterte has adopted it, you know, and this model through AIM, it's being Asian Institute of Management, it has been developed into a model for training of all mayors, because they've got about 2,000 mayors in the Philippines. So they got to follow, well, they've been given a choice to follow this way. So they say they don't follow this soft way, then follow his hard way. Shoot on sight all the drug pushers, you know. But for Mayor Jun, there is no shooting on sight, you know. So he do it through consultation, reaching out, you know. So he's using the software. So President of the Philippines now give it to you. You use the software like Jun, or adopt my way, you know, which is getting more difficult for some to accept. So again, it's a gambling-free society. No drug can be found, you know, or no drug activities. Even it is 100% smoke-free municipality. Even Davao, through the tough guy of the current president, who was 20 years as governor of Davao, still could not get a really push 100%. You know. So more evident here, no presence of organized criminal, no presence of armed groups, no presence of drug lords, gambling lords, no recorded kidnapping incident, almost zero crime rule. So I was afraid that when been invited to, you know, to visit this part of Zamboanga, but you know, when we reach there, we feel relief at home. So they have successfully eradicated hunger, you know, and the level of well-being of sejahtera, is what Tan Sri Zul has been expounding all this while. They have reached that. Successful into a societal size system that enable the people to sprout and develop. And they have successfully identified their own identity and culture. You know. Thank you. Mabuhay.
Thank you, Dr. Zulkifli Bahrom. Now we will have refreshment. And